Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to talk about how to deal with being upset powerfully. So the first step is to understand why we actually get upset in the first place. Now, I'm here to say that 99.99% of the time that we get upset, that's you and me, we are getting upset not about the thing itself, not about the actual kind of situation that we're in, but we're getting upset about something in the past which reminds us of the current situation that we are in. Now, of course, there could be very severe situations that happen where we do get upset, like the death of a loved one. And I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm talking about mainly, upsets that come from your day-to-day life. It might be an argument or a disagreement with someone. It might be something that you planned to happen that didn't quite happen. To put this into a bit more context, think about the last time that you had an argument with someone, or the last time that you saw two people arguing. You might have seen two people arguing over a parking spot or something when you were shopping. Every argument I've seen, by the way, in the parking lot or in a shopping mall has always been so mundane and over something so tiny. Now, when you see these type of arguments escalate, they just seem to go from 0 to 100, 100 being pure rage and hate really quickly. And that is really because that these two people who are having this discussion or argument, they're not reacting directly to each other. They're not really kind of listening to each other. They're not gauging the situation fully, but they are being a reaction from something that happened in their past. So that's what I really mean by upset. So how do you deal with upset? So I'm going to walk you through a personal example that I've had to deal with recently to help you kind of walk through any upset that you might be dealing with. So I live in a house which is an end of terrace house, and right next door is a huge drive that my neighbour owns. This drive is unused 95% of the time. And I've now lived in this property for about 7 years. And I feel like, because we've been on such good terms with the neighbour, I really feel like I should be able to park on that drive. The other thing that I have on that drive as well is the top of a coal shed, a coal cellar, and I own the top of that. So my position has always been to the neighbour, let me park on top of my coal shed, because the amount of room that I'll actually take up from your drive that your family actually uses when they actually do visit you on that rare occasion, actually it won't impact anything. It really won't impact anything. And I've basically just had no's in the last 6 or 7 years. Then I had COVID, right? And I was in my bedroom, and the bedroom overlooks the drive itself. And I got myself really worked up about it. I make 3 requests basically to park on the drive. One, my wife makes. She doesn't really kind of outline it fully. It's just a really kind of passing request. And I think, okay, that wasn't very good. Let me try. So I have a conversation. I explained that I recently purchased a hybrid plug-in vehicle. Being able to plug it in would save us loads of money. I still got a no. And I'm really upset. And I go to the extent where I think that they're on holiday, and I park on their drive to charge my car. And I think it's a 2-week holiday. It's a weekend holiday. They come back. All hell breaks loose. And there's a lot of upset on both sides. Now, their immediate reaction was to turn up their music really loud, to kind of try and smoke me out, to get an apology from me. And that was their reaction. So all of a sudden, it's escalated to this really kind of weird, aggressive level, which never existed before, by the way. But before my requests, it was good. It was absolutely fine between us and the neighbour. My gut reaction, by the way, was to react and to really escalate the neighbour war. So I was thinking, oh man, maybe I should turn my surround sound speakers, point them at the wall, and really turn my music up in retaliation. I was thinking, maybe I should build something on that bit of land that I own on their drive, on top of my coal shed, that will really annoy them. All these kind of weird thoughts started going through my head, and I decided to take myself through a practice which really kind of allows me to take responsibility and to have power over the situation. Because I think where things really escalate and where people really kind of sell out on their own power is when they start pointing the finger and they don't take responsibility for their actions. So I think the first thing you need to ask yourself to really understand your upset and get that the upset is over here with you, not anywhere else, is you need to look at, what was your thwarted intention? What was your undelivered communication? I'm checking my notes here. And what was your unfulfilled expectation? It could be, one or two of those, or it could be a combination of all of them. Now, for me, this was a thwarted intention, and this was also a unfulfilled expectation. I really did intend to be able to park on that drive following the conversations that I had with my neighbour, the initial conversations, and it was an unfulfilled expectation. I really did expect that my neighbour would say yes. I just didn't really see at the time why they would say no. Next, you need to ask yourself, what about this situation reminds me of my past? And for me, it really was a reminder of the high school or secondary school, because I really allowed myself to be bullied something quite severely at quite a lot of times, never standing up for myself in secondary school. And when I started college, I made this decision, and I basically said, I'm just never going to let anyone treat me like that again. I'm always going to give as good as I get. And if anyone, does kind of, try and test me, then I'm always going to have the upper hand. I'm going to do something just a bit extra to kind of get over them. Now, of course, it's completely nonsense, right? It's a conversation I made up in my own head. And it's something that I've got the ability now, because I've distinguished it and I've recognized it. I could catch it. I could catch it at times, and I could put it to rest. And this is the work that you really need to do to get on top of your upset and to have power with your upset. Dive into your past. And it might be tricky to start with, by the way. It will be tricky to start with if you haven't done this kind of work before, but you just need to really kind of look deep inside and think, right, when was the first time that I had this type of feeling, either about the situation itself or about the other person? Because, by the way, the other, it might not be the actual situation, it might be the person. The person might remind you of a family member, they might remind you of a parent, which is quite likely. And actually, in this situation, to a lesser degree than the situation itself, my neighbour does kind of remind me of my mum when I was growing up, and I really didn't have a good relationship with my mum when I was growing up. It's great now, absolutely love her, she's fantastic. But when I was growing up, very, very different story. So like I say, this is a very crucial and important step for you to have power over your upset. Go into your past and find out what does the current situation remind you of that you can, draw a line to. Next, you need to separate the story from the fact, from the actual current situation. You need to look at, who's involved, what's happened, and who it's happening with, separate from the story. So let me explain a bit more. So if I was to add all the story behind, what's been going on with the drive, I'd say, oh yeah, my neighbour's just really inconsiderate. They haven't thought about me having a young family. They hardly ever park there. So if I was in her shoes, I would definitely let a young family park on there. All this stuff, right? Story. That is the stuff that we want to put to rest. The actual what so, like the facts, is that I made 3 requests. I got 3 no's to park on the drive that they own. And I then chose to park on that drive anyway after those no's. And that's the what so. That's actually what happened. Having a story separate from the actual what so, for me, gives me very clear perspective, and it allows me to say, do you know what? Every ounce of upset that exists right now between me and my neighbour, including the upset which is being experienced right now by my neighbour, that's me. That's my responsibility. I created that. Now, taking ownership for that and being able to separate, the what so from the story allows me to have a great deal of power over the upset. And right now, I don't experience any upset towards my neighbour whatsoever. In fact, I am just kind of letting things, this is a very fresh example that I'm using. This has literally just happened in the last couple of days. And I will next week invite my neighbour over to have a dinner and take full responsibility and apologise directly. I have sent her a letter with a full apology, taking full responsibility for it. So now that you separated the what so from the story, you're now left with a choice. You can either choose to continue to be upset or not. And if you choose not to be upset, then you create something new. You can create something new. And in order to do that, there might be new actions that you need to take on. The actions that there are for me to take on are to take full responsibility and to apologise fully to my neighbour for running those stories. And also, by the way, it's not just an apology. For me, it's an apology and it's an honest share. It's being very naked in the conversation and really letting her know fully that this wasn't about the drive. I mean, in a small way it was, but much bigger part, this was about past-based conversations that I allowed to get in the way and that I allowed to really add to my upset. And it is kind of having that conversation that I can invent something new with my neighbour, which will be a new relationship, or at very least, a civil friendship where, we don't have to turn speakers onto each other and play very loud music and do anything very weird that you normally get with neighbour war things. So anyway, guys, I really hope this video helped. Please do leave me a comment below if you took yourself through these steps. Let me know if it helped. And if you have any other comments on this video, please do subscribe to the channel. Take care of yourself and I'll see you soon. Cheers.